Hello guys, welcome back to our CSS course. Now we've reached the end of this course and the last video we'll be looking at here is responsive web design. Now this is the most important technique that you need to learn in CSS because it helps you make your website look as good as it should be on any screen. Now this is a desktop screen. Let's see how it looks on a tablet. Now on a tablet you can see we have a bit of overflow here, which is something that you would not want. Then on mobile you can see that the content gets shoved off of the screen. Now this is where responsive web design comes in to make sure your website scales accordingly to the screen width. Now to start making our content responsive, we have to go back to our HTML, and the most important thing you must always make sure is in your HTML web page is this meta tag. So the meta tag will be viewports. So this line should always be in your website if you're intending to make that website responsive on all screens. So as we've looked at in all the videos, to create a simple template like this, all you do is you type out the exclamation mark and you get, and VS Code gives you a basic template for a HTML web page. So you will not have to worry about adding all this important stuff. So now the first thing I have to look at is images. Now images are one of the most important things in your website to be responsive. If we add an image here, let's load an image into this card, and I already have an image in this project, and that's about us the JPG. If we reload this page, you see that this image just gets way too big. Let's remove this skew animation from our card. So now if you notice, our image gets way too big when we load it in. Now this is not ideal. We want our image to be at least a max width of 100% of its parent. Now to achieve that, you can go into your CSS and add this rule. You select all images in your page and say that the max width must always be 100%. And this 100% means 100% of its parents. So the maximum width any image can scale to in this web page must be 100% of its parent. So now when we refresh, you see that this image now only takes up 100% of this card. Now if this image was located inside the body, the image will only scale to 100% of this body. As you can see, get no overflow at the bottom here. So let's put that back into the card for now, and let's look at some other things. So first things first, I want to create a simple navigation bar. Now navigation bars are things you can find on different websites. So let me open up one. So right here is an example of a navigation bar. If you notice, this navigation bar will actually be too big on a mobile device, which is why when this page scales down to mobile, you can see that the navigation items get shrunk down into a single button here, which can be toggled, opened and closed, just like that. So let's create something very similar to that. With the skills we've learned in HTML and CSS, we should be able to create a simple navigation bar like this. So the first thing we'll do is we want to write this semantically. So let's use the nav tag, and here you can see we have a column for the logo and a second column for all other links. So we can also do that here, and we can call this create a div and call this, give it a class of logo. And when creating navigation bar, we most times always use unordered list for the links here. So sorry, let me reopen this. And now let's create an unordered list here, and I can call this nav list. Then we can create our nav item. So for this we can have home, about us, we can have services. So these are just example pages, pricing, and last but not the least, the contact us page. And when I'm building something, I always love to give everything class names to prevent styling with the element name. So I'll call this nav items, and just for good measure we can also do the same thing for the anchor tags and give them class names of nav links. So let's also indent the code so they look good. So now let's see what we have here. We have our items listed out. Let's add a logo here and can just call this brand name. Okay, so now we have the HTML structure for our nav bar. Let's put this into a h1 tag, and yes, so now we have the HTML structure for our navigation bar. Let's now start with the CSS. Now first of all, let's get rid of all styling we've done here, so we can remove the roots, image, and all this. And first things first, you must always add this when building responsively. You select all elements and set it to the box size into border box, so that all padding and margin will be contained inside the total width of that element. So we can also add margin set to 0 and padding set to 0, so that we don't get this extra margin and padding we have by default. So let's also get rid of our card here. And same for our body, we can remove the flex box and all the aligning. So now let's start styling. First of all, we want to select our navigation bar and can just give this a class of nav bar. So first of all, we want to make this a flex box and give it a display of flex. Then you can say justify content space between. So content, both the brand name will be on this side and the other links on the far end. So we have that now. We also want to give it a padding of probably 8 pixels and let's see 20 pixels on the left and right, so that can be a bit more. Can set this now to 40 pixels, and let's continue and see how that goes. So now we'll start styling the nav list, which is this. So now select this, and first things first, just like how we did with this, we want this to be a flex box also, so all the elements are lying side by side. So set this to display flex, and can give our elements a gap of 10 pixels. and we also want to get rid of these dots, and to do that we set the list style to none. Okay, so let's increase the gap between these elements to, let's see, 40 pixels. Okay, that's manageable. Now let's get rid of the underlines for the links. So now I can select nav item and then nav link. So to get rid of the underline, we set the text decoration to none, and we can give them a color of, get a default color for the page, a primary color. You can choose anything. I'll go with dim gray and see how that looks. Okay, so that looks a bit better. So this is optional, but you can also get some custom fonts for your page. So to do that, I'll go over to Google Fonts. Now this is all just to set up a simple page that we can have something to make responsive on different screen sizes. So now the font I'll go for is Open Sans. So click Get Font, then get embed code, then copy this code and paste it into the head of our page. And now in our CSS we can use the font family Open Sans. So now I can go here and just set it on our body tag, so all text in our page we use the font family Open Sans. So you may notice a bit of a longer load time, and that's because it's getting the fonts from Google. So I can see the difference in the fonts. So let's inspect this first of all, and you can see that the text is actually pushing up this page, but we'll look at that in a bit. Now you can see our brand name and navigation list don't actually align, and we want that all to be on the same line. And to achieve that, we have to use the align items. So in this flex box, we set align items to center, and same in the nav list, and let's see the results. So now all our items are aligned perfectly. So let's first add a bit of more padding. And to the top also. So now we can add a background color to this navigation bar. You can go for something dark. So background color, let's set this at the top here. Background color could be, let's still go for something gray, so something like this, but can change the color up. And I'll use the hex value, which means we also need to change the color of our nav links. And there we go. So let's set this also to white. So we'll select it with the class name, and it's always good to always select using the parent then the item, so you don't start overriding any other classes. So this can now be color set to white. So that's it for now. Let's also use some pseudo classes so get some interaction when the user hovers over these items. So right here we can now select this again, and add the pseudo class of hover, and we can change the color to something deeper when the user hovers. And this could be something higher. And let's not forget to add a transition so it doesn't happen instantaneously with easing out. As you can see, we have the colors changing when the user hovers over it. Let's reduce the time it takes. And now we have a basic navigation bar in HTML using CSS. So now we want this to scale. So when our user is on a desktop, this is okay. But as it gets smaller, like somewhere right about here, we want to display a hamburger menu like this. So now, first of all, to get an icon for that, we also have to use something else called Font Awesome. Now, Font Awesome is where we can get icons, any icon you need for free. But first of all, we need to get the CDN. So you can just go to Google and type in Font Awesome CDN. Go to CDN.js. And you can see this, and just copy it, and we'll go back and add it into our page, just like the link, just like the font. So we can just get rid of all this integrity and all this. All we need is the relative type and the link. So now with this, we can get our font, or icon rather, which is a menu icon. So we can just check menu. So this is just exactly what we need. And just copy this. And right here we can have it in our, just like this. So you can actually put this into a div. So it can be div.menu icon. And this is our icon right here. So let's style it. So select it, navbar, then menu icon. Then I want to give it a color of white, and we can also increase the size. So a font size of, let's see, 20 pixels, and let's select the actual I elements. So this is right here. So at this point, we don't want to display this icon at this size. Now to do that, this is where responsive CSS comes in. Now when writing responsive CSS, we have a CSS rule, which is the @media rule. Now in the @media rule, you can write a particular set of functions which only triggers when the screen size reaches that set size. Now to write this, you write @media, then followed by only screen, and then just like the suggestion says, max with 786 pixels. So before we go into this, we can set this default display. So we can set it on the parent to display of none. So we shouldn't be seeing the icon anymore. Good. So now at a certain point, like let's say 860 pixels, we want to change this from just showing the links to just our hamburger menu. And to do that, we come here, then we select this menu icon again, and we set it at max width 860 pixels. We want this to be displayed again and set to block. And then we'll want our nav list, which is this, to now be set to display none. So we can select this now and say display of none. So now when we refresh this page, you'll see anything above 860 pixels, our page displays as normal. But once we get to 860 pixels and below, you see all we see is our hamburger menu. So those are the things you can do with using the media rule. And another thing we can do is change the padding that we have at a particular width. So we can do this at, let's say, 600 pixels. So you can, all these are called media breakpoints. So you can add as many media breakpoints to your CSS file as needed. So you can create another one and call this media only screen and max width 600 pixels. We want to change the padding on our navbar, and the great thing about media breakpoints is you can just individually change one styling at a particular width, so you don't have to copy all the style you've written and apply it here. So you can just change one property. So for the navbar, the only property I'll be changing is the padding, and the padding I'll set it from 80 pixels to, let's see, 40 pixels. So now at 600 pixels and below, the padding gets reduced. And you can also do this at another breakpoint of, let's see, 425. And you can take it even lower to, let's see, 25. So these are the things you can do with CSS media queries. This is just a simple example. In CSS, we can also do things like this, opening and closing of this, even without using JavaScript. This can all be achieved in CSS. I'll be looking at something like this in our next video, which will be our project video. But for now, you've seen how we can manipulate a particular element to be displayed in different ways on different screen sizes. So I hope you've learned something, and in our next video we'll be starting our project and building a very simple but professional looking CSS web page. So see you in that video, and bye for now.